You know, there's this one single comment I saw circulating online that I think captures the sheer terror and maybe the excitement of this moment better than any 50-page white paper ever could.
Sure.
Someone looked at the latest AI benchmark results for GPT 5.2 and just wrote, 71% isn't just a win, it's a rewiring of labor cost.
Wow. Yeah, that really cuts through the noise, doesn't it?
It really does.
For the last few years, our whole focus was on these abstract sort of intellectual benchmarks. We watched models take the bar exam or, solve these high-level logic puzzles.
Right, it was novel.
It was novel, it was philosophically interesting, but it felt, well, distant. A genius AI solving some complex math problem doesn't immediately threaten the payroll of a mid-sized accounting firm.
Exactly. The whole challenge felt philosophical. Like, does AI have a soul? Or will it ever truly create meaningful art? But with this new analysis of GPT 5.2, the conversation has it's completely shifted. We've stopped asking if it's smart enough to pass the test and started asking if it's cheap enough to replace the employee. We are now fully in the era of, what are they calling it, economic substitutability.
That's the critical shift. Our focus is no longer on abstract reasoning. It's on practical, real-world deliverables.
Right.
Can the AI look at a messy Excel sheet, parse a multi-page PDF invoice, and then generate a purchasing plan that actually meets compliance standards? This analysis, it shows that the models have moved beyond being just a co-pilot.
That helpful assistant you still have to constantly check up on.
Exactly, to becoming a functional substitute.
And that brings us right to the core of what we need to talk about today. We have to move past the philosophical debates and focus on the fact that this AI workforce, it's not a concept for 2030 anymore.
No, it's not.
It's a line item on a company spreadsheet right now. We're going to drill down into that key figure, 70.9%. That is the percentage of economically valuable tasks where GPT 5.2 meets or exceeds human expert performance.
And that 71% figure, that's the tipping point. It directly introduces what analysts are calling the good enough trap.
The good enough trap?
Yeah. The AI doesn't have to be Einstein. It just needs to be a highly competent intern who works at 100 times the speed for, less than 1% of the cost.
So if the quality is sufficient.
If it's good enough, then the cold logic of economics makes the choice for any competitive business just inevitable.
Okay, so let's unpack how we measure this, because that 71%, it doesn't mean anything without context. To get why the ground is shaking, we have to look at the new yardstick they're using.
Right.
We used to rely heavily on MMLU, which is Massive Multitask Language Understanding. And MMLU was basically a general knowledge trivia test. It asked things like, what's the capital of France?
Yeah.
Or explain quantum entanglement. But GDPval, gross domestic product value, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
It is, frankly, boring. It's tedious. And that is precisely why it's so terrifyingly accurate about the future of work.
Because it measures deliverables, not knowledge. Exactly. Not trivia, but actual paid work. The tasks are sourced from human professionals with, on average, 14 years of industry experience.
So we're talking about real complexity here.
We're talking about things like creating an optimized shift schedule for a huge hospital with all the union constraints, or auditing a purchase order against 3 different vendor invoices to spot fraud, or writing a really specific legal brief based on contradictory case law. This is where real economic value is measured.
And the leap we're talking about here is it's vertical. I mean, only a generation ago, GPT 5.1 was hovering around, 38%?
38%, yeah, which made it a helpful but often inaccurate assistant, a true co-pilot.
But now GPT 5.2 has shot up to 70.9% in that crucial wins plus ties category against those same seasoned human experts.
And that 70.9%, it doesn't just represent progress, it represents that competent intern threshold we talked about.
Yeah.
The data shows the model has basically graduated from a junior to a mid-level proficiency across 44 different occupations. When you think about it, most companies don't really need a revolutionary genius every single day. They just need someone to process data correctly and reliably. And if the AI can handle that 70% of the time, well, the entire workflow of the modern firm just changes overnight.
Because the human isn't needed for the baseline production anymore.
Exactly.
But let's dig into a really crucial detail here, one that's kind of hidden in the spreadsheet. The difference between wins only and wins plus ties.
Yes.
A win is simple. The AI was just flat out better. It optimized the schedule more efficiently, or it caught an error the human missed.
But the tie is the part that actually guarantees displacement. A tie means the AI did the job just as well as the human expert. The source material says the output was, and I'm quoting here, indistinguishable in quality.
And I think this gets to the absolute core of that good enough trap. In, say, a creative contest, we might give the tie to the human because we value that human touch. But in pure cost-driven capitalism, the tie goes to the cheaper option. Every single time. It turns quality parity into economic obsolescence.
That's it, exactly. The AI doesn't need to dominate us to replace us. It just needs to match us. I mean, look at the specific cost example in the analysis.
Yeah, that was staggering.
An analyst gets paid, say, $50 an hour. It takes 4 hours to do a detailed financial statement. That's a $200 task.
A completely normal labor cost.
Right. Now, if GPT 5.2 can achieve that exact same quality, a tie in 30 seconds for 15 cents, the comparison is just absurd.
15 cents. That's less than the paperclip holding the report together.
It is. The human is instantly and, quote, economically deleted from that workflow.
I saw a lot of skepticism online about this, people arguing that ties don't guarantee superiority, and they're technically right. It doesn't mean intellectual superiority.
No, it doesn't.
But the counterpoint is that economically, superiority is now a function of output per dollar. If the quality is identical, the cost differential makes the AI, well, infinitely superior. The math is just inescapable for anyone who has to sign the paychecks.
And we can see the devastating impact of this cold math in specific job categories. Look at customer service representatives.
Okay.
Their wins plus ties score is 82.2%. That means 4 out of 5 customer interactions are handled as well as, or better than, a human agent. For a call center that's running on razor-thin margins, that's not a statistic. That is a complete executable roadmap for mass layoffs.
You just keep a small human team for the really complex or emotional calls.
The remaining 18%, exactly.
Let's pull back for a second and look at the consolidated industry data, because the gap between GPT 5.2 and its closest competitor is a story in itself.
It's a big one.
GPT 5.2 is at 70.9% wins plus ties. The next closest model, Claude Opus 4.5, is way behind at 59.6%. That's an 11-point difference. It's not incremental.
No, that's an exponential advantage in economic impact. And we really need to highlight the specific danger zones that just leap off the page.
Like finance.
For the finance sector, the existential fears are clearly justified. Securities and financial sales agents are at 77.8% replacement readiness.
And why is it so high?
Because at its core, that job analyzing market data, predicting trends, high-frequency trade execution, it's all just a very sophisticated data processing task. And the AI handles that relentlessly. No emotion, no fatigue, no weekends.
And then you look at professional services, and the data for software developers it's genuinely strange.
It is.
Their score for wins only is 82.2%, and their score for wins plus ties is also 82.2%. That's rare. What does that signal?
It signals the elimination of the median developer. It means the model almost never ties. It either writes perfect, superior, highly optimized code, or it completely fails. It hallucinates.
So if you're a routine coder,
the future is binary. Either your tasks are entirely automated or you are left with only the most complex, novel, difficult architecture problems.
But the most striking data of all is what they're calling the 93% club. These are jobs where the core competency, according to this analysis, is basically solved. We're talking about high-level roles: editors, computer and info systems managers, wholesale sales managers, and this is the one that got me, private detectives, all at 93.3%.
The private detective anomaly is just phenomenal because our mental image of that job is so misleading. We picture the classic gumshoe, right, staking out an apartment.
Right, it's not physical surveillance.
No. The sources point out that modern investigation is 90% digital forensics. Just
combing through data.
Crawling public records, analyzing social media footprints, cross-referencing financial data, mining government databases. The OSINT open source intelligence work is functionally solved by a large language model. It makes the traditional gumshoe data collection part of the job largely redundant.
And when you look at the common DNA of that whole 93% club, the thread tying all those jobs together is that they are all essentially factory work for data.
That's a great way to put it.
High-volume data processing within a strict, predefined set of rules. Editing follows a style guide. IT management follows protocols. There are optimization problems. And the AI is the perfect optimization engine.
That's the pattern. If your job is about finding the optimal path within a defined set of constraints, you are now competing directly against a tireless machine.
We absolutely have to address the skeptics here because there is a fair and important critique of all this data.
Of course.
The argument of benchmaxing is a big one, that these models are just optimized specifically to score high on this one test. And let's be blunt, OpenAI created the GDPval test. There's an inherent conflict of interest there.
That's a valid challenge. And there's also the under-contextualized flaw, which is more practical. Critics correctly point out that real work is messy. It doesn't happen in a perfect lab environment. These tests use static files. Here's a PDF, analyze it perfectly.
Whereas real life involves friction.
Exactly. Real life means logging into a legacy SAP system that times out, dealing with browser crashes, or parsing these ambiguous emotional emails from a client who doesn't quite know what they want and uses confusing jargon. The current AI workforce really struggles with that kind of dynamic, real-world friction.
Yeah. Okay, but wait. If we assume that critique is valid, that the test is optimized and the real world is messy, and we agree the score might be inflated, doesn't that make this whole discussion less urgent?
That's the critical question, and here's the counter-argument the analysts make. Even if you say the score is inflated by 10 or 15%, so the AI is only 60% as good as an expert, the economic pressure to automate is still overwhelming.
It's the trajectory that matters.
The vertical trajectory of improvement is what matters most to CEOs, not the snapshot score today. We went from 38% to 71% in one generation.
And the economics are just brutal. The most chilling metric they published was that the model produced outputs at 11x the speed and 1% the cost. That comparison doesn't create a choice. It creates a gravitational pull. No rational executive board can resist.
And this moves us firmly into the rewiring phase of the economy. Companies aren't going to fire everyone tomorrow and install a single chatbot. That's the naive view.
So what happens?
Well, change the ratio of labor. Before, you had 10 junior analysts who were reporting to one senior manager, creating this vital training pipeline.
Right, the junior roles were the entry point. That's how you gained experience.
Precisely. The AI workforce changes that math completely. Now, you have one senior manager overseeing 10 AI agents. And this poses a deep and, frankly, terrifying crisis of skill acquisition.
Because the training ground is gone.
The training ground is gone. If the entry-level jobs disappear, how does anyone gain the 14 years of experience required to become the expert human who grades the next generation of AI models? We are effectively burning the ladder while we climb it.
So, if the machine is taking all the optimization problems, where do humans still hold the line? The data does highlight where we win.
It does.
Physical presence, empathy, and high-stakes ethical or liability judgment.
Look at recreation workers. The AI barely passes parity, just 55.6% in wins. And AI can certainly design the logistical layout for a spring fair. That's an optimization problem.
But it can't handle the people.
It cannot calm an angry vendor who didn't get the corner spot they wanted. That requires real-time physical empathy and social intelligence.
And crucially, accountability. That remains a uniquely human shield. The job isn't just about being smart anymore. It's about being there when things go sideways. The analysis points out an AI can't go to jail if a compliance report is wrong. A human compliance officer can.
And that liability shield is a key form of job security. It's because we need what is chillingly referred to as a human throat to choke when things go wrong. When the financial stakes are highest, a human has to have final sign-off.
So let's look ahead. Where does the tech go next? The consensus seems to be that the knowledge problem is basically solved with this 71% parity. The next battleground isn't intelligence, it's execution. We're moving towards agentic workflows.
Right. Currently, the human acts as the glue. We take the AI's perfect output, we check it, we reformat it, we log into the system, click through the 4 security screens, and then we hit send.
We're the IT department for the AI.
We are. But the next generation of models, the rumored GPT 5.3 and 5.4, they'll be designed to handle the clicking. They will navigate the browser, fill out the form, deal with the timeout errors, and execute the task end-to-end. They will manage the complexity of that legacy SAP system themselves.
And when that friction disappears, when the model can deal with the ambiguity and the technical logistics itself, that whole under-contextualized defense just falls apart.
It does. And we could see that shift to full agentic capability within, 18 months. That closes the final gap for those jobs in the 93% club.
We are firmly in the parity era. The time for AI versus human competition is officially over.
The AI won decisively on speed and cost. Now we are in the era of integration.
So if you're listening to this and your job falls into that 71% or, God forbid, that 93% club, you can't try to be faster than the AI. You will lose every time. The strategic necessity is to move up the stack. Focus on the 30% of the job the AI still fails at.
Ambiguity, client relationships, physical verification, high-stakes moral judgment.
The central economic truth we've uncovered here is this. The global economy is about to accept B+ work from robots because A+ work from humans is simply too expensive and too slow. To survive this parity era, you have to become the architect who tells the robots what to build.
Not the competitor trying to out-type them.
It's a complete transformation in the definition of a professional job. And I want to leave you with this final provocative thought, drawing directly from the necessity of that 14-year expert. Given that the junior tier, that training ground, is rapidly disappearing, how will future human experts ever gain the foundational knowledge and the necessary 14 years of experience required to eventually grade the next generation of AI models?